Welcome. I'm really glad you're here. Not because this video will magically change your life in one sitting, but because the fact that you clicked on something about forgiveness means you're already trying to heal. And healing, that's where life really begins again. Forgiveness. Such a small word, yet it feels like moving mountains. It's one of those things everyone talks about but few truly understand. We grow up hearing that we should forgive and forget. But when someone breaks your trust, hurts you deeply, or leaves scars that time alone can't erase, how do you forgive? How do you even start? Forgiveness isn't pretending that what happened didn't hurt. It's not about letting someone off the hook. It's about freeing yourself from the weight you've been carrying. Because sometimes, the heaviest prisons are built in our own hearts. There's a story I once heard about a man who carried two bags everywhere he went. One bag held all the good things people had done for him. The other bag held every hurt, betrayal, and disappointment. Over the years, the bag of pain grew heavier. So heavy that he began to stoop under its weight. One day, he finally opened that bag, and as he pulled out each memory, he realized none of those things were happening anymore. They only lived inside his mind. That's what unforgiveness does. It keeps you chained to something that no longer exists. The moment you forgive, not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace, you cut that chain. You reclaim your freedom. You might say, but they don't deserve my forgiveness. And maybe you're right. Maybe they don't. But here's the truth. Forgiveness isn't about them. It's about you reclaiming your energy, your peace, your joy. It's saying you no longer have power over how I feel. And yes, it's hard, especially when the wounds are deep. Sometimes forgiveness isn't one grand decision. It's something you do every day, piece by piece. Every time the memory resurfaces and you choose not to let it poison you again, you're forgiving. That's what real strength looks like. There's something else about forgiveness that we rarely talk about. Forgiving yourself. For the things you said, the things you didn't do, the times you stayed when you should have walked away or walked away when someone needed you to stay. Self-forgiveness is where most people get stuck. We replay moments thinking, if only I had done it differently. But life doesn't let us go back. It only asks us to go forward. Sometimes you have to look at the person in the mirror and say, I forgive you for not knowing better then. I forgive you for surviving the only way you knew how. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. And when you truly forgive, you make space. Space for peace, for joy, for love. Because resentment and peace can't live in the same heart. You have to choose which one stays. Every act of forgiveness, no matter how small, is a declaration that you are no longer controlled by pain. It's you saying, I'm taking my life back. There's a quiet kind of power that comes when you forgive. It's not loud or dramatic. It's gentle, like a soft breath after a storm. At first, it feels almost unnatural. You've spent so long holding on to the pain that letting go feels wrong, like you're losing something important. But what you're really losing is the weight that's been holding you down. See, forgiveness isn't the same as reconciliation. You don't have to let everyone who hurt you back into your life. You don't even have to tell them you've forgiven them. It's something sacred, something that happens quietly inside your heart. You wake up one morning, think about what happened, and instead of feeling anger, you just feel nothing. And that nothingness, that calm, is peace finally taking root. I remember a story about a woman who lost everything because of someone else's lies. For years, she dreamed of revenge, thought about how she could make them pay. But one day, she said something that stayed with me. I realized that by hating them, I was giving them free rent in my soul. That was the day she let go. She forgave not to forget, but to stop feeding the pain that was consuming her life. Forgiveness doesn't erase the past. It rewrites your relationship with it. It turns the pain into a teacher. You start to see how strong you've become, how much you've learned, how deep your heart truly is. And maybe, just maybe, you'll even start to be grateful for what broke you because it led you to discover who you really are. That's what forgiveness does. It transforms pain into wisdom. It takes the worst moments of your life and turns them into the reason you understand compassion. Sometimes people think forgiving means you're weak, that you're letting others win. But no, real forgiveness is one of the bravest things you can do. It's saying, I refuse to be defined by what you did to me. It's strength with softness, power without pride. And when you finally reach that moment, when you look back and the anger isn't there anymore, you'll realize that forgiveness was never about changing the past. It was about freeing your future. Forgiving isn't a single moment. It's a process, one that unfolds slowly, like dawn after a long night. Some mornings you'll feel light, like the hurt has faded. Other days, one small memory can pull you right back into the darkness. And that's okay. Healing doesn't follow a straight line. It loops, it pauses, it sometimes hurts even more before it gets better. People say, just move on. But you can't move on from something you haven't made peace with. Forgiveness isn't forgetting. It's understanding. It's sitting with the pain long enough to see what it's been trying to teach you. Maybe it's teaching you boundaries. Maybe it's teaching you empathy. Or maybe it's simply teaching you that you deserve peace, even if they never said sorry. When you start to forgive, it feels strange, because your mind wants justice, but your soul wants peace. And there comes a moment when you realize you can't have both. You can either keep replaying the story, or you can step out of it and start writing a new one. You stop asking, why did this happen to me? And you start asking, what can I learn from this? That question changes everything. I once heard a monk say, forgiveness is giving up the hope that the past could be any different. That hit me, because so much of our pain comes from wishing things had gone another way, that they had loved us more, that they had stayed, that we had made a different choice. But the truth is, the past doesn't change. Only our relationship with it does. When you forgive, you stop fighting with ghosts. You stop carrying people who were never meant to walk your whole path with you. You start seeing that not every ending was meant to destroy you. Some were meant to free you. Forgiveness also means forgiving yourself. And that's often the hardest part. We're so good at blaming ourselves for not seeing the red flags, for staying too long, for not saying the right thing. But you have to remember, you did the best you could with what you knew at the time. You were learning. And you can't punish the version of yourself who was just trying to survive. When you truly forgive yourself, you start to breathe again. You stop overthinking the past and start living in the present. You begin to trust yourself again. And that trust is what allows real growth to begin. Forgiveness isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's what happens when your heart grows bigger than your pain. And in that moment, you realize something powerful. You didn't need them to apologize. You didn't need closure. You only needed to choose peace for yourself. You don't wake up one morning and suddenly forgive. It doesn't happen like a light switch. Forgiveness is a habit you build, a quiet decision you make again and again. It begins with small things, like choosing not to replay the same story in your head, or catching yourself when anger tries to speak louder than your peace. Every day, you'll get reminders of what hurt you. A song, a message, a place. But those are also moments to practice, to breathe, to pause, and say to yourself, I'm no longer there. I'm growing, because every time you choose not to feed your pain, you feed your peace instead. You might think forgiveness means reconciling, calling them, fixing things, pretending everything's fine. But it's not that. Forgiveness doesn't always mean a reunion. Sometimes it's just closure within yourself. It's saying, I wish you well, but I can't keep walking backward. Some people will never understand your forgiveness. They'll say, how can you let that go? But that's because they don't see the cost of carrying it. Holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to get sick. It hurts you first. And one day, you'll realize your peace is worth more than keeping that pain alive. Start small. Before bed, whisper to yourself, I release what I can't control. Every morning, remind yourself, peace is my priority today. And when your heart feels heavy, write, not to them, but to yourself. Write what you wish you could say, then fold it, burn it, or simply let it go. There's power in releasing words that no longer serve you. You'll notice something subtle happen over time. You stop needing to win the argument in your head. You stop needing to explain your pain to anyone. And that's how you'll know healing has started. When silence feels like closure. Forgiveness also teaches you humility. It reminds you that everyone, including you, is still learning how to love, how to listen, how to be better. We've all hurt someone, even without meaning to. We've all been the villain in someone's story. And when you understand that, your heart starts to soften. You stop dividing the world into good and bad, and you start seeing people as human, flawed, messy, trying. That's when forgiveness becomes more than a choice. It becomes a lens. You start to see life differently, not through the cracks of what broke you, but through the light that still shines through them. And the beautiful thing is, once you've learned to forgive, you'll find it easier to love. Not because people stop disappointing you, but because you've learned that peace doesn't depend on them. It depends on you. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means remembering without letting it destroy you. It means you can look back at what happened and still feel peace in your chest. It means you've stopped asking, why did this happen to me? And started asking, what did this teach me? You begin to see how the pain shaped you, how it broke you open just enough for light to enter, and you realize something powerful. You're no longer the same person who got hurt. You've grown. You've become softer, wiser, freer. There's a moment. It might come quietly one morning, when you realize you've let go. You don't even notice it happen. You just wake up and the weight is gone. The memories are still there, but they no longer sting. The scar is real, but it's part of your story now. A story of strength, not pain. And maybe that's what forgiveness really is. Not a gift you give to others, but one you give to yourself. It's choosing peace over bitterness, freedom over resentment, growth over the endless cycle of what if. Because the truth is, you deserve to move forward. You deserve to live a life that isn't defined by what hurt you. You deserve quiet mornings and laughter that doesn't carry pain inside it. You deserve peace, the kind that stays. So tonight, before you go to sleep, say this softly. I release the need to keep replaying what broke me. I forgive because my peace matters more. And tomorrow, when the sun rises again, take one step, small or big, toward the kind of life that feels lighter. A life built not on what you lost, but on what you've learned. Because forgiveness isn't a finish line. It's a beginning, a quiet return to yourself, a homecoming to peace. If these words found you tonight, thank you for being here, for listening, for feeling, for being brave enough to look at your pain and still choose softness. If this story touched you, share it with someone who might need it. And if you want to keep walking with us through more gentle lessons like this, about life, healing, and the strength that comes from stillness, make sure to subscribe and join this quiet community of reflection and growth. Until next time, forgive often, live gently, and remember, peace always begins with you.